Welcome to Getting In, a College Coach podcast. I'm Sally Ganga, your host today. For our second segment, I'll be talking with colleague Marge Southworth, who recently served as a college counselor at the American School of Madrid. And she and I will be discussing attending college abroad. And yes, you can get your degree abroad, not just study abroad for 1 year. So listen in. And for our third segment, I'll be chatting with colleague Jen Simons about how to find out about clubs in high school and whether to start one if you can't find one you like. But first, I'm welcoming Jan Combs, college coach finance expert, to talk about what high school seniors and their families can be doing now to prepare to pay for college. It's coming, isn't it, Jan? The big
It is
tuition bill.
here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, Sally. So thanks for having me on today to talk about, I guess, action steps is what I refer to them,
Mm-hmm.
that high school seniors can start to do now, related to kind of the paying for college piece of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that a good place to start would be balancing that final college list, right? And some people might be saying, well, that's admissions. Why is this lady mentioning it? So, from a finance perspective, it is important to, as you know, to have that kind of balanced college list. And from a finance perspective, I'm always going to encourage someone to think about your in-state publics, right? Because from a
Mm-hmm.
sticker price perspective, they're lower cost typically, right? So maybe having some of those on there, or looking at schools that might offer reciprocity, which gives you lower tuition in some cases. Of course, it's going to be very state specific, but looking into specialized programs that offer residents or those bordering states, for example, a discount through that type of reciprocity program. And of course, think about colleges that offer a lot of merit. So students, including schools where they're really going to stand out in the applicant pool, hopefully, where they may very well get scholarships.
Yeah.
So those are good tips for balancing the list, really from a financial perspective.
Yeah, I just want to throw in a pitch for that last one. I worked at Whittier College in California,
Yeah,
and I worked once with a student whose parents had high need, and or I should say, the family had high need, and then the student was very, very strong, and he ended up what he was going to end up having to pay every year, and he was living on campus was less than $1,000.
right.
So I just think like, the expensive sticker price, sometimes there are really good options.
Yep,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yep, for sure.
And what
And
about like financial aid forms and things like that? I mean, I think
yeah.
people know that a lot of that is coming too.
Yep, tis the season for that for sure, or bordering on that season
Hmm.
for sure. So people should be aware to apply for financial aid. And this is more than just student loans. I want to be clear. Financial aid kind of encompasses grant programs, which could be from the federal government, might be from a state government, certainly from colleges and universities. So financial aid kind of encompasses gift aid, the student loan program, and the federal work study program. So when you apply for financial aid, you're really asking to be considered for all of those different sources of funding. And so the two main forms that I hope families will be aware of is number one, the FAFSA. You probably heard a lot about the FAFSA in the news, so don't listen to what you heard last year. This is the new year. So the
Hmm.
FAFSA typically becomes available each year on October 1st. For this year, it's only going to be released to a small number of students, kind of starting on October 1st throughout those next couple of months. Most families and students will have access to it on December 1st. So kind of have that date top of mind to complete the FAFSA in the month of December. The FAFSA is great. You just complete it one time and you can send it to all of the different colleges the student is applying to. So it's a very centralized process.
Hmm.
There's certainly a handful of kids who might be able to access it earlier, but you'll be notified by the Department of Ed if you are. If not, December 1 is your date to have top of mind. And then there's a second form called the CSS, and that stands for College Scholarship Service, CSS Profile. And this is used by about 5% of colleges, so a small amount, but it tends to be the more selective private colleges with a handful of selective public universities that will also use it. And this is just an additional form that those schools that choose to use it will need to evaluate the student for financial aid. That form is going to launch this year on October 1, per usual. So if your student's applying to schools that need the CSS profile, they absolutely can start with that October 1 and then follow with FAFSA later on.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's important to note how people can find out what forms the colleges need. Just go to the college website, right?
Just go to the college website. Exactly. They're always going to have an undergraduate financial aid application webpage. They're all going to tell you they need FAFSA. Everyone does. And then
Hmm.
if they need CSS profile, they'll indicate that. And then if they need anything else, if they have a special internal form or something else they need you to do, they'll list it right on their webpage.
Hmm. Okay. All right,
Good
great.
point. Where to find it.
Yeah, yeah. I think people don't. I talk to people every day and they're like, well, so how do I find out about this? I'm like, well, the college has a webpage. Like,
Yes, exactly.
go to the webpage
Exactly.
always. So, all right. And then what about merit scholarships?
So that was actually a perfect segue, Sally. Go to the webpage.
Mhm.
Um, one of the biggest tasks really right now, and I mean right now, for high school seniors is to visit the college's website for every single college you're seriously planning on applying to. The reason for that is although not every college has merit or academic scholarships, the majority absolutely do. And the information on those college websites on their scholarship pages is so important to understand and to follow. So, for example, if you go to a college's website, they'll tell you if they offer merit scholarships. And if they do, in most cases, they'll say, we will review you based on the information contained in your admissions application. That's all you need to do. However, there's definitely schools that might say, hey, I need this special essay from you to be considered for our top tier scholarship. Or we have this special merit scholarship program over here. Click this link to see the application requirements. So understanding whether it's just the admissions application or whether there's extra steps is really, really, really important. The other thing that's super important is, and it's quite prevalent, that colleges will expect the student to apply in many cases, not all, certainly not, but in many cases, by an early action deadline or an earlier date kind of in the process. So it might be November 1, it might be November 15th, but right around that time frame. So although they might be able to apply for admission January 1, they may lose their opportunity
Hmm.
for merit scholarship consideration. So understanding dates, deadlines, the actual requirements, things of that nature is really important. And then there's some schools out there too that will have a separate scholarship application or a database the student has to log into and input their information. So again, it's a requirement. All of the information will be right on their website. And now is the time to
Hmm.
do that research so that you know if you have a November 1 deadline, for example.
Hmm. Listen, I talked to a mother whose son had just told his mom, I don't need to apply early. I'm going to get in anyway. And he was right about that. But because he applied by January 1 and not by November 1, he missed out on a full tuition
Yeah,
scholarship. I
exactly,
mean,
exactly.
I was like, they're not going to bend for this. He'll still get some money,
No,
but he lost
yeah,
out on,
yeah,
it was right on their webpage,
right.
and, you know,
Exactly. The moral of the story is you must be visiting college websites for a
right.
lot of reasons, but
Or
certainly,
just
yeah.
apply early,
Or
like,
just,
or
yeah, or just get to
both.
it and apply early.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. And what about private or outside scholarships? I mean, I usually tell students, I think students think that there's a lot of those and that they're really big. There are a lot, but my sense is that most of them are pretty small. So I always encourage them to look first and foremost at the school. But you know much more about this than I do, Jan. So let me know your thoughts.
Sure. Well, I do agree that in general, scholarships from the colleges are going to be more lucrative, more fruitful than oftentimes private. So always first and foremost, do everything you need to do for the school. But
Hmm.
absolutely, there's a lot of private scholarships, and why I refer to them as private scholarships is they're not from the college. They're
Hmm.
from organizations that are separate. So it might be nonprofit groups, it might be employers, corporations, businesses, all sorts of groups that are looking to fund students. And you'll find the value of those scholarships. Some of them can be quite large, and some of them will be much smaller, 100 here, 250, 500,
Hmm.
750, whatever it is. But I always say that they always add up, right?
Mhm.
And so now also, I know I keep saying now because really the beginning of senior year really is the time to determine which private scholarship opportunities are going to be best for the student because the deadlines actually will start to occur. It always breaks my heart when a student gets admitted to college and then they wait until April, right, to start looking for outside scholarships. Most of the deadlines have passed or are going
Mhm.
to soon be passing. So looking early, first and foremost, students, please check with your high school counseling office
Mhm.
to see what their process is. Most high schools do have their own scholarships, and you're only competing against your classmates.
Mhm.
So it's a good opportunity. The high school guidance office or school counseling office is also going to have a clear understanding of any community scholarships. So your local YMCA, your Rotary Club, your VFW, those kind of local groups always give the information to the school counselors. So
Mhm.
that would be really the first place to check in this fall. If you're back to school, you can do it now. If you're going back soon, you can do it then. Also, I encourage students and their parents and guardians to check with your employers. There's
Mhm.
a lot of companies out there that love to provide as a benefit, right? Dependents of employees or employees. For high school kids, if you're working, check with your employer to see if they have any scholarship opportunities. And then certainly check with any other affiliations or connections that you might have. So maybe someone in your family is a veteran or they're currently
Mhm.
serving this country, right? Or you belong to a church or other religious affiliation. Or you do your banking at a credit union or bank, or you have other financial institutions you use. So you get where I'm going with this. Think
Mhm.
about where you belong, where you spend your time from a leisure perspective. Do you go to the YMCA? Are you a member? Or where do you take care of your business? Those types of entities in many cases have scholarships.
Mhm.
So you have to usually kind of check their website, check their newsletter to find out if they do. And then those deadlines are going to start to happen kind of now all throughout the year.
Mhm. Mhm.
So those are places to look. You can also look online scholarship search engine. That's usually the last place I'll go after I've done all of
Mhm.
my other due diligence. But a scholarship search engine, such as the search engine on the College Board website, or something called Going Merry, like a Merry Christmas,
Mhm.
goingmerry.com. Those are some online search engines that can be helpful as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll tell you, I was a high school counselor for a while, and every place I went, I would look to see if there were any scholarships, and I would pick up whatever the flyer
Yep,
was or something so that I could post it. And yeah, sometimes it was just for $500 or
right.
$100, but then
Yep,
there would only be like five applicants. So your odds of getting in
exactly.
were so much higher.
Yep,
So that's one of the reasons why I still encourage students to do it. Yes,
yep.
it would be great if you could get the Coca-Cola scholarship, but you know
Sure.
how competitive that is? Oh my
Exactly.
God. So, yeah.
Right, and they do add up, right?
Mhm.
And then I always remind people too to think about major. Like my son was a nursing major and he
Mhm.
applied to local hospitals because they were offering scholarships for health sciences majors. So you can kind of think that way as well.
Mhm.
So leave no stone unturned is what
Mhm.
I always say. So good luck
Yeah.
to students in that process.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jan.
My pleasure. Good to see you as always, Sally. And good luck to the
Absolutely.
seniors this year.
Yes, yes. Good luck to the seniors. All right. So after the break, I'll be welcoming Mark Southworth to talk about attending college overseas.